Hi, this is Barry Rosen. I wanted to introduce my new class, Multiple Levels of Existence in Vedic Astrology, Integrating Multiple Charts. Um, Basically, people get very caught up on the natal chart that they're born, and they think that that's it. It's like a line on stone. We think, we're born with, no, that's what we came in with, and there's kind of there's certain genetic patterns that are um, set from that chart, and obviously that becomes the basis for all the other work that we do in Vedic astrology. But our lives are very dynamic, and we can't get caught up on just that one chart for interpretation or prediction. And so part of the purpose of this class is to kind of look at the multiple dimensions of Vedic astrology and show all the different ways of looking at charts: emotional, mental. If you move someplace, that can change and rotate your chart. You go into a new period, that changes your chart. There's a chart for life purpose, a chart for how people see you. So there are all these different charts, and if we don't learn how to look at charts as a multidimensional hologram and to see the multi-dimensions of it, we really kind of do a very static reading that doesn't do justice. This kind of became clear to me even when my first reading, when Shakapani Ulal in 1985 was doing my chart, and he was saying a lot of things that didn't make sense. And I was in a Venus period, and as soon as he kind of realized that he needed to rotate the chart around the Dasha Lord Venus, the whole chart made sense, and that's something that doesn't happen enough sometimes. So we have to remember the charts are very dynamic. So let me tell you a little bit about the various lessons in this course. The course is starting on Sunday, July 16th. We usually start at 3 to 5 p.m. Central Time. The courses are recorded on um, GoToMeeting, and then they're saved in Dropbox. So if you miss a class, you can re-listen to it. If you didn't get everything I said in the first class, then you can play it again and enjoy it. And I send out PowerPoints to each lesson. I used to be a college professor. I'm actually rather a copious, detailed teacher, and so I give out lots of notes since you have a lot of materials in writing, always, in fact, sometimes too much for people. Um, the first class is kind of looking at our natal chart karma, which is the foundation chart. What we're also going to do in this class is we're going to look at your moon chart and the sun chart also. Um, um, Western astrologers, know about solar charts, but Vedic astrologers don't pay attention to them, and they can be very important, especially if we don't know when the person was born, what time he was born, and sometimes we have to run a chart from the sun to reveal certain aspects of the personality. So our first week is on our foundation. Most of you have the foundation, and then we're going to kind of move to the mental level of existence, looking at the Nakshtra matrix, and the influence of the mind. So many of you know that the 27 nakshatras or 28 nakshatras color our mental attitudes, and as the planets, a planet placed in a nakshatra takes on kind of a coloration and energy around that. So we have to kind of learn how to understand the nakshatras and how they influence our mind, and they create kind of this mental matrix. And sometimes it gets very complicated. For example, in my chart, I've got Moon in Jestya Nakshatra, which is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is in Dhanishta Nakshatra, ruled by Mars, and Mars is in Bharani Nakshatra, and the ruler of Bharani Nakshatra is Venus, is in Shravana Nakshatra. So there becomes this kind of like matrix of connections in the chart, which reveal hidden connections and subjective realities that really are very important for prediction, and they're not often taught enough. So spend a week on that. We may need to spend more on that, but we'll see how that develops. Nakshatras need a whole class on nakshatras. Week 3 and 4 on the Navamsha charts, the secrets of your hidden talents and your dharma. A lot of people know how important Navamsha charts are, but they're not really taught enough in how to really use them. The first, fifth, and seventh houses in the Navamsha chart are the ones that you really look at most. You look at all the trines in the Navamsha chart. So and the rising Navamsha sign becomes very important. The Navamsha chart also reveals something about your spouse. It reveals a lot about the four paths, moksha, artha, kama, and the fourth one, which is slipping my mind at the moment. But we have to kind of rotate the Navamsha chart even to reveal it. And then when we wrote the planet with the highest number of degrees in your chart, most of you know, is the Atmakaraka, and that planet governs your soul. And the soul, that planet placed in the Navamsha chart becomes very important. And then we rotate the chart around that planet. We get what's called the Karakamsa Navamsha chart, which is very revealing. And that integrated with the natal chart kind of reveals your life purpose. So in week 5, we'll kind of look at that. And this comes from Vedic Astrology, and we probably could spend a month on it, but it's quite fascinating just to kind of see how your life purpose is very clear in some of these charts, that maybe you don't see it in your natal chart, but it's very clear in the Karakamsa Rashi chart. In week 6, we're going to look at the Arudha Lagna chart. Arudha is your perception chart, your reputation chart, how we appear to others. For example, I'm Scorpio rising, but my Arudha Lagna chart is Capricorn rising with Venus in the first. And, you know, most people see me as this kind of business person. Venus in the first is very good at relationships and supports prosperity, and it's a wonderful position to have Venus or another benefic like Jupiter in your Arudha Lagna, because it creates an instant rapport with other people and they see you as this wonderful loving people. If you have like Rahu or Mars in your Arudha Lagna, even though you may have this great chart in your natal chart, it could be that people see you in a very harsh light and they think you're a crook. Like if you have Rahu in the first, if you have Mars in the first, they see you as being too aggressive, or being kind of a fighter. And you know, that may be true. That may not even be true of who you are, but that's how people see you. So it's important to kind of understand how the Arudha Lagna chart. And it turns out the Arudha Lagna chart is very important for prediction, because what manifests in the physical world often comes out of the Arudha Lagna chart. And it's actually much better at predicting what we get in life and what manifests in our life than our natal chart sometimes. So again, another problem when we don't look at all these charts. Next, in week 7, we need to look at your period charts. We have to rotate the chart around the period, and I use the example. So when I was in a Venus period, I had Venus in the 3rd house, exchanging houses with Saturn. And my whole life during my Venus period was about relationship. It was about the arts. And when you rotate my chart around Venus, everything that's happening in that chart just makes a whole lot more sense than if you read my natal chart in my Venus period. So we have to learn how to realize that charts rotate in the time windows that in the periods that we go through, and we have to re-look at the charts in a different way. This is even more so. We'll take a look at Rashi Dashas from Jaimini Astrology. There are 32 Rashi Dashas. Some of them are conditional Dashas that many of you may not have, but there's some that work for everyone, like Narayana Dasha and Jaimini Chara Dasha. And those charts often rotate periods by sign. And particularly Narayana, Jaimini Chara Dasha will start either go clockwise or counterclockwise from the sign that you're born. And so it's kind of like you rotate into a new period, rotating around the zodiac, and it brings out new parts of your personality, new perspectives, and new house focuses. So, for example, I was born in a Scorpio period. My chart rotates backwards. I'm currently in a Pisces period, which is my 5th house connected to Jupiter and the Sun. And lo and behold, as soon as my Pisces period started, have this passion to be teaching astrology and writing about astrology, and just, fanatical about astrology. And even though I've been involved in astrology for 30 years, I was doing more business astrology, but now I'm just kind of involved in 5th house energies. And it's very exciting. So we have to understand how we have to learn to rotate the charts around periods so that we can get another reading on the chart. And again, you can have if you look at 3 or 4 different periods going on in your chart at the same time, you'll see the multidimensionality that is going on, because your Vimshotri dasha might be in a mine's in a Rahu period at the moment, but your Jaiminachara dasha is in a Pisces period, and my Narayana dasha is in a Virgo period. And it's very clear how there are certain focuses going on in all these areas of my life, and they're very predictable. They're very predictable in other people's lives, so you just have to know how to use them. In week 8, we'll look at the transposed material world astrolocality. Astrolocality is very misunderstood. A lot of it is wrong from the Western perspective, because the Navamsha is wrong and it's off 23 degrees. So a lot of the lines on a Western astrolocality chart don't mean anything. And astrolocality is more than the lines on the chart. It's the fact that if you move far enough from where you're born, your houses, your rising sign may actually change, and it really does. And I learned this at an astrology conference. I was born in Chicago, and I moved to Sedona, Arizona when I was age 42. And at that time, I went from Scorpio rising to Libra rising. And life is very different in Sedona. I didn't really totally understand it. I was there 18 years, but I had a very different chart, and it had nothing to do with my dasha period or all the other charts that we were looking at. It was basically, I suddenly really became Libra rising. In my natal chart, I'll put it up for you. Oh, that's not coming up. Okay, here's my natal chart. And in my natal chart, you can see I'm Scorpio rising with Moon in the first house, and I've got Saturn and Neptune in Libra. Now, if we rotate the chart around, when we do the astrolocality, I come out 20 degrees Libra, because I'm 1,800 miles away from where I'm born. And then if we look at this chart, I'm going to rotate it around Saturn, because I put Saturn in the first house, and that becomes Libra. So notice how the chart's different. We have Saturn in the first house in Libra at 27 degrees. My ascendant in Sedona was 20 degrees. So Saturn was very close to my ascendant. And when you have Saturn in the first house, even if it's exalted and it's Yoga Karaka for Libra, it still causes a lot of problems. I had a lot of health problems in Sedona for about 10 years. And it was because that exalted Saturn was just always creating some kind of havoc in my health. Saturn aspecting the 10th house. I was very successful at work. I made a lot of money, but I was working my ass off. Exalted Saturn aspecting the 10th house. I had Jupiter in the 9th house in the rotated chart. I was doing a lot of spiritual teaching a lot of meditation, a lot of yoga, a lot of breath work. I was actively involved in service work, and a very, very beautiful spiritual time in Sedona, despite having health problems all the time. I had a lot of money when I was in Sedona, because I put Moon into the 2nd house, which is good for finance, although it certainly was emotional at times. Venus in the 4th house, exchanging houses with the 1st house. I was obsessed with homes. I bought 3 houses when I was in Sedona. I was constantly redecorating them and remodeling them. Saturn exchanging houses with Venus, just never really happy with how they looked. So I had more relationship problems there. I had Mars in the 7th house in Sedona, and I got married in Iowa, and my relationship was fine. So when I really discovered this principle of how charts rotated with astrolocality, I moved back closer to where I was born, and my chart went back to Scorpio rising, and it was a whole lot easier. My health got normal, and my relationship returned to normal. It wasn't working as hard, and things were good. So that's the astrolocality chart. So at some point we have to kind of, in any reading, we have to learn how to synthesize all of these levels of existence into a reading, because our lives are multidimensional. They're not just a static fixed line that we were born with. So if you're interested in my class, it's starting in 2 weeks from Sunday, on Sunday, June 16th. It'll run 3 to 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time for 8 Sundays. There's 8 lessons in the course. Each lesson is about 2 hours. They're recorded on GoToMeeting. They'll be available to watch as soon as you're off. If you're interested in signing up for the class, it's $199 currently. It's the early bird special into July 4th. It's a very reasonable price, $25 per class. In fact, I really need to be, charging twice as much. But this is my love, is teaching astrology, so it's kind of my seva. You can sign up at my website, www.appliedvedicastrology.com, under the webinar tab. There's a PayPal link to pay. If you can't find that, or if you don't, then you could just email me at barry2@fortunecast.com. I'll send you a PayPal invoice. So I look forward to seeing all of you at my upcoming classes. I have a new class starting also in September. I just starting to promote that on financial astrology, personal money matters, and remedies for money karma in your chart. It's an 8-week class starting in September. I will be doing a video on that so you can learn more about that. Also very excited about that. Again, my goal with these classes is not to teach basic Vedic astrology, but to teach people to know the basics of Vedic astrology, something deeper. And my courses are always about going deeper and richer and looking at things in new ways. If you don't know any Vedic astrology, then you will not be able to take my class. You can take my Schools of Karma class, which is about the most beginning class I have on Vedic astrology, and that's available on my website. If you need support in wanting to learn Vedic astrology, there's some free videotape seminars that I can recommend to you. You can write me at the above address, and you can study with Ryan Krychek. He's got 52 videotapes for free to teach you the basics, and that will get you ready for any of my classes. And finally, always happy to do readings for you too, so you can always sign up on my website at www.appliedvedicastrology.com. So I hope you'll take an interest in my class. I've got space for 20. I've got about 10 people enrolled so far, and looking forward to seeing you all. Have a great day.